Good morning, Wrestling Geeks. I'm TJ, and this is Totally Pissed Off Pro Wrestling Geeks. And welcome to the Geeks Top 5 European Champions of all time from 1997 till 2002, the whole belt's existence. We're going to go through it today, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, geeks, marks everywhere, as long as you're not a sports entertainment fan, because who likes sports entertainment anyway, right? Get ready for the Geeks Top 5. All right, ladies and gentlemen, all aboard the Pissed Off Geeks time machine. Please hang on to your helmets, strap into your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We are going to be going back in time for this one. Okay, great. Now all we got to do is input the time we're in now, 2020, and then we got to go back to 1997. Whoa. I know there were some speed bumps along the way, but yeah, this looks like WCW versus the World for PS1. Guess we made it. Well, that's enough of a nostalgia trip for right now. Let's get into this top 5 list. And starting out our top 5, Shane O'Mac. Here comes the money, here comes the money. Shane McMahon, he started out in the wrestling business at the age of 15. He started out in a warehouse, filling merchandise orders and things of that nature. I remember him whenever he first started in the ring wrestling. And he would come out and he would do the corporation, right? I started to say the corporate ministry, but that was later on. It started out as the corporation. It was Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon, and Shane had these three guys that helped him out. It was the Mean Street Posse. I know some of the viewers listening to this episode of Totally Pissed Off Pro Wrestling Geeks remember the Mean Street Posse. They were like Shane McMahon's lackeys, for lack of a better term. Shane McMahon is a one-time European champion, but he retired with the European title, and he was undefeated when he retired. It's important to note that he also held the Hardcore Championship one time, and he was a one-time SmackDown Tag Team Champion. And more recently, he held the WWE World Cup. He won it in 2018. Um, Shane McMahon was entertaining as a competitor in a wrestling ring. He was a high risk taker. He was like he would get. I remember one thing in particular that Shane McMahon would do is he would get up and he would get up on the turnbuckle, and he would already have his opponent sitting in the other turnbuckle, right? He would put like a trash can on his opponent, and he would jump from coast to coast, one turnbuckle to the other. He would do like a drop kick on top of his opponent. And when he do his drop kick, it would kick the like trash can or steel chair or whatever the foreign object might have been at the time into his opponent's face. And I always thought that was real cool. But you even take it back to the Hell in a Cell match that he had with the Undertaker. There were some high spots in it for sure. And he had some feuds in the late 90s that we're going to go over in this video while we discuss his ranking in the Geeks Top 5 for top 5 European champions of all time. And we're going to get in and dive into those a little bit deeper. I think it's important to talk about all the good times that these guys have had, their high points in their careers, and Shane McMahon being a European champion was the high point in his career. He deserves a spot on the Geeks Top 5, and he's got one. Great. Here we see Shane McMahon sitting with a young Shane McMahon sitting with Jim Cornette. And he did do a little bit of commentary when he first started. He was a risk taker and more entertaining than most of the roster. Now, when I say he was more entertaining than most of the roster, that was when I was talking about the high spots that he done. He had feuds with some of the wrestlers at the time. The corporate ministry thing that they done with the Undertaker's faction of the ministry of Darkness and Vince McMahon's faction of the corporation that had The Rock. I mean, it all worked, right? Like, it worked out for the best. The Attitude Era, until I see something better. We got a good time in wrestling right now, but until I see something better, the Attitude Era is still widely considered the biggest boom period of wrestling. It was whenever they sold the most merchandise. It's when they sold the most tickets. It's when business was at its peak. You had two companies that were drawing millions of viewers on cable TV every Monday night, and there were hours of wrestling TV on every week, right? You had everything from the Monday Night Raws, the Monday Night Nitros, the Thunder, SmackDown, Sunday Night Heat, WCW Saturday Night. It's hard not to consider it the best time in wrestling. Shane McMahon epitomized everything that was this time period. When I say he was a risk taker, it was a risky time in the business because it was all in or all out, because everybody was fighting for a position, so much to where Vince McMahon put his own son out there. Like, I'm sure Shane McMahon wanted to be a performer. He wanted to be an on-air talent, and he was good at it. He was a good promo, good talker, good wrestler, good worker. And like I said, he even succeeded in the hardcore division. He held the hardcore title one time, held the tag team titles one time. Impressive career for the boss's son. I mean, you know he was going to get over. He's the boss's son, but he didn't have to do all the stuff that he'd done. And that's what makes it just that much more special, because he went the extra mile. He, like I said earlier in the video, anybody with a net worth of his, the amount of money that his net worth was, he didn't have to get out there and do that stuff. He got out there and done it because he liked doing it. He was a fan. Like, he was a fan prior to that. He was a fan of Extreme Championship Wrestling in the Philadelphia business that was Extreme Championship Wrestling. He liked that type of wrestling. He was a friend with Scotty Flamingo, right? It was well noted, well reported on that Shane and Raven were friends during Raven's first stint in the World Wrestling Federation. So Shane definitely going above and beyond to be entertaining for the fans, and you got to appreciate that. Anybody's got to appreciate that. All right, Geeks, we want to reiterate that he retired as an undefeated European champion. Undefeated, never was beaten while he was a European champion. Later on, actually, what ended up happening with Shane O'Mac and the European title, once he retired as European champion, Midian ended up finding it in his bag and asked if he could have it. This is during the corporate ministry era, and Shane told him, yeah, you can have it. He had already retired the belt. The belt was deactivated for a short time period after Shane O'Mac retired with it. That way he could be a undefeated champion while he was retired. Coming in at number 5 on the Geek's Top 5, Shane O'Mac. So one of the things I wanted to hit on in this video is something that doesn't normally happen. So with Shane McMahon, the time that he won the European title, he actually won it in a tag team match. Yes, Geek's, Marks, everywhere. The tag team match was set up, and it was Shane McMahon and the Undertaker's brother Kane versus Triple H and X-Pac. And the European title was on the line. X-Pac was the current European champion at the time, but Shane McMahon and Kane were victorious in this European Championship tag team match. So Shane McMahon walked away with the European title, thus leading to his 47-day reign prior to him retiring as undefeated champion. And later on, Midian finding the European title in Shane's duffel bag. The title was then reactivated after Midian found it and asked Shane if he could have it. Shane gave it to Midian, and the title was reactivated after that. Shane McMahon's feud with X-Pac was one of the highlights of his in-ring career. They feuded over the European title. I think it's kind of cool, kind of neat to, if you'll look over at the picture of Shane McMahon, you see the backing of the European title had a green strap. It's kind of cool to note that. Another thing I wanted to hit on in this video is there was never a World Wrestling Entertainment version of the European title that was released. As far as anything other than the only ones that were released were replicas. There was never one debuted on TV. The title was retired in 2002. Rob Van Dam is the last champion of the European title. The feud that Shane and X-Pac had was over the title, and it was, you see in this picture here, Shane's got the he's got the DX t-shirt on, and it says X-Punk, and it's got it rolled over top of the DX sign. It's kind of cool. I thought that was a little bit of nostalgia get there, and I think this all started with Shane and X-Pac, but it was also a byproduct of the corporation and DX having a feud. So that's something to keep in mind too, because before they joined forces, before Triple H turned on X-Pac and DX and went to the corporation, DX didn't like the corporation. They didn't like Vince McMahon or Shane McMahon, and the same could be said for the other side. So it was just a byproduct of the corporation and DX, and Shane didn't like X-Pac, and he wanted his title, and he got it. And they had plenty of matches afterwards that would follow up, and it was pretty exciting. I remember it happening. That was Shane McMahon, and he was the number 5 on the Geek's Top 5. Oh, great. Now if we can pull Paul Blart real quick and segue into our next participant in this Geek's Top 5 European Champions of all time. We're going to segue to number 4 on the Geek's Top 5 European Champions of all time. Number 4 on the Geek's Top 5, Darren Kenneth Matthews, or as he's better known as, the British gentleman, William Regal. He's got the power of the punch, right? Anybody that remembers his in-ring career definitely remembers William Regal having the loaded trunks with the brass knuckles that he would pull out to secure certain victories, right, for the European and Intercontinental title. It's important to note that William Regal is one of only 3 Eurocontinental champions. So to be a Eurocontinental champion, the participant would have had to have held the European and the Intercontinental title both simultaneously at the same time. So William Regal is one of them. The second one is Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett only held it for a short time. He won it on a pay-per-view, and he gave it to Mark Henry the following night on Monday Night Raw. The third Eurocontinental champion is Kurt Angle. So there was only 3, and important to note, as far as William Regal goes, he held the belt on 4 different occasions. He's one of only 2 men to ever do that. So it's important for the sake of this video, his credibility as far as being one of the top 5 European champions of all time. He held it on 4 different occasions and was a Eurocontinental champion. So, adding more onto William Regal, he is one of only 2 European champions that was actually born in Europe. He was one, and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, was the other. So, he's one of only 2 to ever do that. Starting out his career in North America anyway, he spent some time with World Championship Wrestling as Lord Steve Regal, and he teamed with another future WWE Hall of Famer, and at the time his name was Jean-Paul Levesque, or as we know him better now as Triple H under Hurst Helmsley. They created a tag team known as the Blue Bloods, and for some reason, there's a weird occurrence of putting these two together because once it was done in World Championship Wrestling, following William Regal's departure from World Championship Wrestling and going into the World Wrestling Federation, and along with John Paul Levesque, Triple H, he also went to the World Wrestling Federation. They were paired as a tag team in the World Wrestling Federation together too. So that was a tidbit I thought I would throw in there. I thought it was kind of interesting, and it might add some more depth to this and cool fun fact for you guys. So him and John Paul Levesque were close even in their early days in North America as the tag team of the Blue Bloods. Alright guys, so in the present state of wrestling in 2020, Regal is better known for his work in NXT, WWE's developmental league. He is currently listed as WWE's Director of Talent Development and Head of Global Recruiting. So he goes out, he recruits new talent, scouts new talent, I'm sure, and brings them in, helps them probably with promotional, like promo skills, in-ring work. Because say what you will, but William Regal was a good in-ring technician as well. And now he did kind of have, he had some stuff ups. Like I remember before he left World Championship Wrestling for the final time, he had a match with Goldberg that was controversial. Goldberg was new at the time, and Regal, from the match clips and highlights I've seen of it, it looked like he worked real stiff. There was a little bit of controversy about that. You guys are welcome to go back and check that out. Pretty interesting, but another key thing that William Regal done in WWE is he worked as a commissioner. And I know he was tasked with having to take care of Eugene. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was a character during the ruthless aggression era of WWE, and William Regal kind of took him under his wing, and he was tasked with kind of getting the ball rolling with him and overseeing his development as well. So, worthy number 4 for the Geeks Top 4, William Regal. Alright, marks everywhere. Get ready for the Geeks Top 3. Coming in at the Geeks Top 3 is D'Lo Brown. He was a 4-time WWF European Champion. He was also a Eurocontinental Champion. He had a brutal 5-star frog splash. He, jump off the top rope, do the frog splash, and he wore this chest protector out. Like, it had shoulder straps that went over shoulders, and it always seemed like that chest protector that he wore just made that frog splash that much more brutal. I remember at the time that was all like, while this was happening, D'Lo would do do a gimmick where he would wear like European attire, or he might eat European food, and certain things that he would do while he was European champion. Charismatic performer, definitely a key figure of the Attitude Era, and one of the best European champions of all time in the Geek's opinion. Absolutely. Just a little bit of a backstory on D'Lo Brown. He started out his wrestling career in a promotion that was known as Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It was created, promoted, and owned by Jim Cornette. This was out of Kentucky, Tennessee, and some of the South Central states. He started out working as security for a tag team called the Geek'S that had New Jack in it. New Jack later went on to be in Extreme Championship Wrestling and a controversial figure in the wrestling industry. I think it's fair to say that. But D'Lo Brown, he also had a long tenure with the Nation of Domination. Alright, I told you guys he had a long term relationship with the Nation of Domination. But I did not tell you all that he was the longest reigning member of the Nation of Domination. So you're talking about created and by Farouk. You also had Rocky Maivia in there, more well known as The Rock. Just pre-Attitude Era Rock was Rocky Maivia. Mark Henry, D'Lo Brown, and Mustafa, better known as the Godfather. That was his, most well-known character that he went by. You also had Owen Hart, that was affiliated with the Nation of Domination for a short period of time within this time frame. But yeah, I mean, they feuded with the likes of D-Generation X, and I remember the DX they came out, they did a skit like they were acting like they were the Nation of Domination. And that was good times though, right? Here's a pic of D'Lo Brown doing the frog splash I was telling you all about earlier. It looks like he is doing it, and it's X-Pac getting ready to take it. Ouch. All right, but D'Lo Brown coming in at number 3 on Geek's Top 5. Time for our top 2. Where's Nick Cannon when we need him? Because we need a drum line. Coming in at our number 2 spot, we've got the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. He held the title for 206 days. That's the longest reign of any European champion. By the way, he was the inaugural champion, first ever. He won it in a tournament that was held over several days in Germany. The finalists for this tournament ended up being the British Bulldog and his tag team partner at the time, Owen Hart. Also, in real life, just happens to be his brother-in-law. Yes, he was a brother-in-law to Bret and Owen Hart. It's important to note that the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith also holds the most days, with the title being at 253 days. He came back in once his first couple of stays with the World Wrestling Federation were over, and his time with World Championship Wrestling was over. And I know I'm going to tell you why he went to World Championship Wrestling in the first place. The Montreal Screwjob, right? Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, the world title. Bret Hart's going to leave. He's going to go to World Championship Wrestling. Big money contract, right? Well, once the Montreal Screwjob happens and Bret Hart gets quote-unquote screwed over for the world title because he didn't want to lose the title in Canada, Davey Boy Smith, along with Jim Danville Neidhart, follow Bret Hart into World Championship Wrestling. Well, Davey Boy Smith will return to the World Wrestling Federation in 1999 and 2000, where he would get a reign with the Hardcore title and another reign with the European title. Tacking on to his previous reign of 206 days, this added another 46 days on, leaving him with a total of 253 days with the title. This was a toss-up between him and the number 1 spot because he came very close. Davey Boy Smith came very close to being number 1 on the Geek's Top 5. And now it's time for the Geek's Top spot, the number 1 spot. Many other great competitors on this list, no doubt about it. Shane McMahon, William Regal, D'Lo Brown, the British Bulldog Davey Smith, the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. And now for your top number 1 spot. Get ready for it. Drum roll. Mr. WrestleMania himself, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. And I know some people are shaking their heads right about it now. They gotta be. Here's why. Shawn Michaels held the European title at the same time that he held the World Wrestling Federation belt. So, that means he was the top producing merchandise draw in the industry at the time. Well, at least in the World Wrestling Federation at the time. I'll put it that way. He held the World Wrestling Federation title, so he was the best in the company at the time while holding the European title. To me, that's got to elevate him above anybody else on the list because he was the face of the company at the time that he held the title. That says a lot about him. He brought a lot of prestige to the belt by doing that, and he lands a spot at the Geek's top #1 spot on the list. So, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Needless to say, he was a founding father of D-Generation X and a leader of D-Generation X during its first iteration, right? Up until WrestleMania 14 with his World Wrestling Federation title defense against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, he ended up losing against Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. And following that night was Shawn Michaels' ultimate retirement, his first retirement. He ended up coming back to the World Wrestling Federation in 2002, but that was going to be the last we were going to see of Shawn Michaels in an in-ring capacity for the next couple of years. Moving forward, he was damn near just as good when he came back as he was the first time around, right? His first match back was against Triple H. It was impactful. It was like he never missed a beat. They call him the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling, right? And this is another side note tidbit for the video, but following his comeback in 2002, he had a run with the New World Order, the World Wrestling Federation version of the New World Order. Unfortunately, it was after Scott Hall had already left, following the plane ride from hell incident, but because I think it would have been cool as shit to see HBK and Scott Hall and X-Pac and Kevin Nash all together in the New World Order. It would have worked. I think it would have worked well. Unfortunately, Kevin Nash ended up getting a torn quad shortly after Shawn Michaels joining the group. It didn't work out the way they wanted it to, but I figured that'd be a cool fact to add in here. Shawn Michaels #1 on the Geek's Top 5 European Champions of all time. Alright, geeks and marks everywhere. As long as you're not sports entertainment fans, I wanted to be sure to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed our video. This video has been made and produced by Totally Pissed Off Pro Wrestling Geeks. Mag Geek TV. Thanks for watching. I hope you like, share, and subscribe. And keep an eye out, hit the bell for future content. Alright, geeks and marks, feel free to leave us a comment on any future content or videos that you'd like to see us do in the future. Thanks, and Geek is out.